And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Sunday morning's IFR, or Sunday morning's flying weather, shows a big area of IFR out here over the Bering Sea with storminess out there, spreading slowly eastward there across the central Aleutians, marginal VFR to the Fox Islands, and the Pribilofs to the north and northeast here. VFR, Bristol Bay, all of the western central interior from the Yukon Flats up to the Arctic coast. Some marginal VFR, areas of marginal VFR here over the eastern interior, and then on down into Cook Inlet, IFR, early tomorrow morning over western Prince William Sound, eastern Kenai Peninsula, and a band off the southeast coast. And as you can see, that shifts into the Panhandle during the afternoon hours and right up along the North Gulf Coast as conditions start to improve a little bit here over south central Alaska, Copper River Basin up into the 40-mile country there, upper Tanana Valley. VFR, still some marginal VFR right through here, and then good VFR back to the west from the Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay, all the way up to the Arctic coast and the northern Bering Sea. Marginal VFR right near the Pribilof Islands, and then southwestward with a diminishing area of IFR here over the central Aleutians and southwest Bering Sea. And for Monday morning, that area kind of shifts back to the west there and is now right over Adak Island, and that's about it. And then improving conditions here, VFR for the Pribilofs into the eastern Aleutians, north and westward all the way up to the Arctic coast. Areas of marginal VFR over the eastern interior, and it looks like some more IFR here for the North Gulf Coast around Yakutat, and then into western Prince William Sound, eastern Kenai Peninsula, and portions of eastern Turnagain Arm with marginal VFR for the southeast coast. And Monday afternoon, no change here for the North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound with areas of IFR. Improving though over the Panhandle, VFR over most areas, but marginal VFR down to the south. Mostly VFR over interior Alaska. Again, really good for the Arctic coast, North Slope areas. Eastern Brooks Range could be a little marginal on down toward Eagle and maybe a little to the south. And for the eastern and northern Bering Sea, good VFR with the IFR held back to the west here over the central Aleutians, westward. And for passes, Anatuvik and Adigan, VFR for the day Sunday. Western Alaska Range looking good as well. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, rainy VFR. Windy, occasionally marginal. Isabel, occasionally marginal. And then back to VFR from Antasta and Tanita. And Portage, looks like it'll be marginal VFR. And for Chilcoot White, VFR. Freezing levels here, right off the North Gulf Coast and then down across the Panhandle, 2,000 feet. Down over the Queen Charlotte Islands, and then 2,000 feet almost up to the west central Aleutians, but not quite. And for icing, 3 zones of moderate rime icing expected here. This one actually north of Adak, extending back to the northwest, so not much of a problem with that. And then this one over the Susitna Valley and across the Brooks Range into the Tanana Valley, eastern interior areas. And a little bit here possible here for the eastern areas of the southern southeast coast with light to isolated moderate icing for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, and south central Alaska. Jet stream, 33,000 feet. We've got north winds here across the west coast and eastern Bering Sea at about 70 knots down across the Alaska Peninsula, turns westerly and then southwesterly into the Panhandle. And at 9,000 feet, south to southwest winds are mostly south along the southeast coast here, 45 to 50 knots. Trough through here for lighter winds, and then northerlies on the west side of that trough, 30 out of the northeast for the western North Slope, and then 45 knots here all the way down to the Alaska Peninsula. And at 3,000 feet, that north-northeast wind flow continues here at 35 to 40 knots along the west coast and diminishing there across the Alaska Peninsula area, turning southeast at 50 knots there over toward the Komodorsky Islands, way out there to the west. 45 knot winds off the north coast of the Panhandle due to this low south of Prince William Sound. Turbulence-wise, mechanical turbulence of the light to isolated moderate variety here over the interior. much of the west coast Togiak Bay, up across Norton Sound, the Alaska Peninsula, and right along the north coast of the Panhandle.